My sister held my insulin over the sink and said, "If I can't have diabetes, then neither can you." When I begged her to stop, she laughed and said, "You're sweating already. What's that, 400? How long till your organs shut down?" I didn't say a word. That was 9 days ago. This morning, she was crying in court while they read the charges out loud. "What's the worst thing your sister ever did to you?" My sister pretended to have diabetes because she was jealous of the attention mine got me from our parents. Jade was 5 years older than me and treated my type 1 diabetes like a personal insult. She'd hide my glucose meter before meals, steal my juice boxes meant for Lowe's, and tell our parents I was using my condition for attention. When I was 10, she threw away my insulin before a family trip and I ended up in the ICU. She told everyone at school I was faking symptoms for special treatment. My parents told me to be patient with her, that she was just jealous of the medical attention. They had no idea how dangerous her jealousy would become. When Jade was 18, she announced at dinner that she'd been feeling dizzy and shaky between meals. She pulled out one of my glucose meters and went through the history, claiming that some of the wonky blood sugars in its history were actually hers from when she borrowed it. Our mother immediately made her an endocrinologist appointment, while Jade started telling all her friends that she was probably about to get diagnosed with diabetes. The blood tests showed perfect levels, but Jade insisted they'd missed her reactive hypoglycemia. Within a week, she was demanding the same meal schedule and accommodations I had, timing her fake symptoms to match my real insulin schedule. Every week brought new dramatic lows for Jade. Never mind that in order to get dangerously low blood sugars, you have to be injecting insulin, which Jade wasn't. No logic here. She'd collapse in stores, shake uncontrollably, and demand juice while people panicked. She studied my real symptoms and perfected them. The specific way my hands trembled, the confusion that came with low blood sugar, even the particular way my speech slurred when my glucose dropped too fast. She'd time her fake episodes for maximum attention, once staging a severe crash during my birthday party, convulsing on the floor until someone gave her cake. The paramedics who came found normal blood sugar, but she claimed their meter was broken. Our parents spent thousands on specialists who found nothing wrong. Jade joined diabetes support groups where she spread misinformation to actual diabetics, then decided that the reason she was having low blood sugars without injecting insulin was because of proximity exposure to my insulin. So she demanded separate refrigerators. She'd wake our parents at 3 a.m., claiming dangerous lows, forcing them to make her food while I handled my real overnight blood sugar issues alone because I'm not an infant. The truth finally came out at Thanksgiving. Jade was performing her usual dramatic low when our cousin, who was visiting from out of state, mentioned seeing her eat a huge candy stash in her room an hour earlier. Jade froze mid-shake. Our aunt, who was a nurse, grabbed Jade's glucose meter and tested her right there. Her blood sugar was 95, perfectly normal. The shaking stopped immediately as everyone stared at her. She tried to claim the candy was treatment for an earlier low, but our aunt tested her again 10 minutes later, still 95. No diabetic's blood sugar stays that stable after eating candy. Our parents went through her room that night and found her diary where she admitted to everything. She'd been faking for over a year, researching every aspect of diabetes to make her performance convincing. They told her she had 30 days to find somewhere else to live. She screamed that they were choosing their defective child over their healthy one, but for once, they didn't cave to her manipulation. But Jade wasn't done. The next morning, I woke up to find my insulin pump beeping empty, which was impossible since I'd just changed it the night before. All my backup insulin pens were gone from the fridge. My emergency glucagon was missing. Even my hidden supply in my bedroom was gone. Jade stood in the kitchen, holding my entire supply of life-saving medication over the sink. "If I can't have diabetes," she said calmly, "then neither can you." She'd already flushed half of it, thousands of dollars of insulin gone in seconds. The rest, she held over the garbage disposal. I had maybe 6 hours before my blood sugar would skyrocket dangerously high. The pharmacy was closed for the holiday weekend and wouldn't reopen for 3 days. The nearest hospital was 2 hours away. My parents had gone Black Friday shopping and weren't answering their phones. Without insulin, I'd be in diabetic ketoacidosis within hours, my blood turning acidic as my body started eating itself. "Here's what's going to happen," Jade said, her finger hovering over the disposal switch. "You're going to tell Mom and Dad that you've been coaching me to fake this whole time, that you taught me how because you wanted someone to share the attention with. You'll admit you helped me fake all those episodes. Or I destroy the rest of this insulin and you get to experience what a real diabetic emergency feels like." My blood sugar was already rising. I could feel the early symptoms starting, the thirst, the need to pee, the slight nausea that would soon become violent vomiting. Without insulin, I could slip into a coma before my parents even got home. I'd die in this kitchen while Jade watched. She smiled as she saw me doing the math in my head, calculating how long I had. "Choose quickly," she said, tilting the vials toward the drain. "Your blood sugar's already climbing. How high can it go before your organs start shutting down?" I stared at the vials in her hand, my mind racing through options. The disposal hummed beneath them, ready to destroy my only chance at survival. My throat was already getting dry, that telltale sign that my blood sugar was climbing past 200. "Jade, please," I started, but she shook her head. Wrong answer. She dropped one vial into the disposal and flipped the switch. The grinding noise made me lunge forward, but she held up the remaining insulin like a weapon. "That's one down. You've got maybe 4 hours now instead of 6. Want to try again?" My hands were starting to shake, not from low blood sugar this time, but from the adrenaline and rising glucose. I backed away slowly, trying to think. The landline was in the living room. My cell phone was charging upstairs. Even if I could reach either one, who would I call? My parents weren't answering. The pharmacy was closed. An ambulance would take at least 30 minutes to arrive, and Jade would destroy everything before they got here. "I can see you calculating," Jade said, moving to block the kitchen doorway. "There's no way out of this. Just tell them what I want you to say, and I'll give you back your insulin. Simple trade." I glanced at the kitchen window. It was small, but maybe I could fit through. Jade must have seen my eyes move because she grabbed a kitchen knife from the block. "Don't even think about it. I'm not going to stab you or anything dramatic, but I will use this to puncture every single vial if you try to leave this room." The nausea was getting stronger. My body was already switching to breaking down fat for energy, producing ketones that would eventually poison my blood. I could taste the metallic flavor starting in my mouth. "You know what the funny part is?" Jade continued, setting the knife within easy reach. "I actually learned so much about diabetes from watching you. I know exactly what's happening to your body right now. Your cells are starving because they can't use the glucose in your blood without insulin. Your liver is dumping more sugar, trying to give you energy, but it's just making things worse." She was right. My blood sugar was probably approaching 300 by now. The thirst was becoming unbearable. I needed water, but I couldn't move without risking the rest of my insulin. In about an hour, you'll start vomiting, she said conversationally. Then comes the confusion, the weakness. Your breathing will get rapid and shallow as your body tries to compensate for the acid building up. I've seen you in DKA before, remember? When I threw away your insulin before the trip, the memory made me angry enough to focus through the growing brain fog. That nearly culled me. But it didn't. Mom and Dad rushed you to the hospital, held your hand, stayed by your bedside for days. Where was I? Sent to stay with Aunt Carol like I was the problem. She gripped the vials tighter. This time, they'll have to choose. Their precious sick child or their healthy one who just wanted to be seen. I pressed my palms against the counter, trying to steady myself. The room was starting to feel too warm. My skin was getting that dry, flushed feeling that came with high blood sugar. What happens when I'm in a coma? I asked. When they find me unconscious on this floor, you think they'll believe I coached you after you've literally murdered me? You're being dramatic. You won't die. You'll just get sick enough that when I find you and save you with this insulin, you'll be grateful enough to say whatever I want. She smiled. I've thought this through. I'll be the hero who found her poor diabetic sibling in crisis and saved the day. Finally, I'll be the one taking care of you instead of the other way around. My vision was starting to blur slightly. Not enough to be dangerous yet, but enough to know I was running out of time. I needed those vials, but Jade had positioned herself perfectly. The disposal was right behind her, the knife within reach, and she was watching my every move. You want some water? She asked mockingly. Your mouth must be so dry by now. That's what, 350? Nah, Nuda? How high does your meter even read? I didn't answer. I was trying to remember if there was any insulin anywhere else in the house. Sometimes I left old pens in jacket pockets, but Jade had been thorough. She must have searched everywhere while I was sleeping. You know what I hated most? Jade continued. The way everyone always asked about you first. How's your sister doing? There's something deeply unsettling about watching Jade study her sister's medical condition like she's preparing for a theater role. The way she memorized those specific tremors and speech patterns. That level of dedication to deception makes me wonder what else is going on in her mind beyond simple jealousy. Is her blood sugar okay? Does she need anything? Like I didn't exist unless it was in relation to your disease. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the counter harder. And the special meals, the counting carbs, the constant checking, everything revolved around keeping you alive while I just had to be grateful I was healthy. She laughed bitterly. Do you know how invisible that makes you feel? To watch your parents panic over every number on your meter while your straight A's meant nothing? I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but my energy was fading. The ketones were building up faster now. My breathing was getting heavier. That's why I had to do it, she said. I had to show them what it felt like to worry about me for once, to rush me to appointments, to check on me in the night, to put my needs first. But it was all fake, I managed to say. So what? The attention was real. The concern was real. For once, I mattered as much as you. She held up the vials again. And now I'm going to matter more. Because when you tell them you helped me, they'll realize you're not the perfect sick child they thought you were. You're just as capable of manipulation as anyone else. My legs were getting shaky. I needed to sit down, but I couldn't show weakness. Not yet. The thing is, Jade continued, I actually got pretty good at faking lows. The shaking, the confusion, the way your eyes go unfocused. I practiced in the mirror for hours. But you know what I could never fake? This. She gestured at me. The way your skin gets that weird dry flush. The fruity smell on your breath. The way you keep swallowing because your mouth is so dry. That's real diabetes. That's what's going to cull you if you don't agree to my terms. I could feel my heart racing, trying to pump the thickening blood through my system. The insulin in her hand was my only chance, but I couldn't give her what she wanted. If I told our parents I'd helped her fake diabetes, they'd never trust me again. Every real symptom I had would be questioned. Every emergency would be doubted. Tick-tock, Jade said. How high can you go? 500? 600? I've seen your meter error out at 600 before. Remember? You were so sick you couldn't even stand up. The memory made me sway. That had been one of the worst days of my life, and now I was heading there again. But this time, the insulin was right in front of me, held hostage by my own sister. You're sweating, she observed. That's new. Usually you get all dry and flushed. Must be the adrenaline mixing with the high blood sugar. Your body doesn't know whether to panic or shut down. She was right. I was caught between the fight or flight response and the growing lethargy of DKA. My muscles felt weak but tense, ready to spring if I saw an opening. I'll make it easy for you, Jade said. Just nod yes, and I'll hand over one vial. Enough to get you through until you can properly agree to my terms. Otherwise, she moved her hand toward the disposal again. The grinding sound from earlier echoed in my memory. Thousands of dollars of life-saving medication destroyed in seconds. I thought about all the diabetics who rationed insulin because they couldn't afford it, and here was my sister destroying it out of spite. You're thinking too hard, she said. This isn't a logic puzzle. It's simple. Your life or your reputation. What matters more? Everything was starting to feel distant, like I was watching the scene from outside my body. That was a bad sign. Severe DKA could cause confusion, delirium, even hallucinations. I needed to act before I lost the ability to think clearly. One nod, Jade pressed. That's all. Just move your head down and up, and this nightmare ends. But I knew it wouldn't end. Even if I agreed. Even if I told our parents the lie she wanted. Jade would hold this over me forever. Every time she wanted something, she'd threaten to tell the truth. Or worse, she'd do this again. I'd spend my life at her mercy, never knowing when she might steal my insulin and watch me suffer. You're running out of time, she said. I can see it in your eyes. They're getting that glassy look. How long before you can't even understand what I'm saying? The kitchen felt like it was spinning slowly. I tried to focus on her face, but it kept sliding in and out of clarity. My breathing was definitely faster now, my body trying desperately to blow off the excess acid building up in my blood. This is what you put Mom and Dad through every time you have a crisis, Jade said. This fear, this helplessness. Except they can't fix it by just nodding. They have to watch you suffer and hope the insulin works in time. I wanted to explain that I never chose this, never wanted to scare them, but my tongue felt thick and clumsy. The words wouldn't come out right. Last chance, she said, raising the vials. Nod now, or I flush the rest. I calculated my options while fighting the growing fog in my brain. The kitchen clock showed 8:47 a.m. My parents wouldn't be back from Black Friday shopping until at least noon. 3 hours. My blood sugar was climbing past 400 now, judging by the symptoms. The metallic taste grew stronger with each swallow. Jade noticed my glance at the clock and smiled wider. She moved the vials closer to the disposal, letting them clink against the metal rim. The sound made my stomach clench. Each vial represented days of life, and she held them like toys. toys. My legs buckled slightly. I caught myself on the counter, but Jade saw the weakness. She leaned forward, studying my deteriorating condition with fascination. Her research had taught her well. She knew exactly what was happening inside my body. The need for water became overwhelming. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. I tried to moisten my lips, but there was no saliva left. Jade noticed this too. She walked to the cabinet, pulled out a glass, and filled it with cold water from the tap. She drank slowly, maintaining eye contact the entire time. I made a decision. Lunging wasn't an option anymore. My reflexes were too slow, my muscles already weakening from dehydration. But I could still think, at least for now. I nodded once, just enough for her to see. Jade's eyes lit up with triumph. She set down the water glass and picked up one vial, examining it like a prize. Then she shook her head and laughed. The vial went back with the others. She explained that a nod wasn't enough. She wanted to hear me practice the story first. Every detail had to be perfect. How I supposedly taught her to fake symptoms. How we planned it together. How I helped her research diabetes to make her performance convincing. She wanted me to rehearse until it sounded natural. My vision swam. The kitchen tiles beneath my feet seemed to ripple. I gripped the counter harder, fingernails digging into the laminate. The effort of standing was becoming monumental. My body was eating itself, breaking down muscle and fat for energy it couldn't use. Jade pulled out her phone and started recording. She wanted video evidence of my confession, proof that I was coherent and speaking voluntarily. She positioned the phone on the counter, adjusting the angle to capture both of us. I opened my mouth to speak, but only a croak emerged. My throat was too dry. Jade sighed dramatically and slid the water glass across the counter. I grabbed it desperately, gulping down the entire contents. The relief was momentary. Within seconds, the thirst returned worse than before. She demanded I start talking. I began stammering through her fictional narrative, but my words slurred together. The brain fog was thickening. Simple sentences became complex puzzles. Jade grew frustrated with my performance. She made me start over twice, each time threatening the insulin when I stumbled. The nausea hit suddenly. I doubled over, dry heaving into the sink. Nothing came up but bile. My stomach had been empty since dinner the night before. Jade stepped back in disgust, but kept filming. She narrated my symptoms to the camera, documenting my decline like a science experiment. When the heaving stopped, I slumped against the counter. My legs shook uncontrollably. Not the practiced tremor of hypoglycemia, but the weakness of a body shutting down. I slid to the floor, back against the cabinets. The cool tiles felt good against my feverish skin. Jade crouched down to my level, keeping the insulin vials visible. She reminded me that we weren't done. The confession needed to be complete and convincing, but forming coherent thoughts was becoming impossible. Words floated away before I could grasp them. She grew impatient with my deteriorating speech. Standing up, she paced the kitchen, muttering about timing. She needed me functional enough to confess, but sick enough to be grateful. The window was narrowing. She checked her phone, calculating when our parents might return. I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. The room spun violently. I closed my eyes, but that made the nausea worse. My breathing had become rapid and shallow, my body trying to expel the building acid through my lungs. Each breath felt insufficient. Jade noticed my breathing pattern and nodded knowingly. She'd studied this too. 2 small respirations, she announced proudly. Deep, labored breathing that meant the acid levels were becoming critical. She estimated I had maybe an hour before consciousness became questionable. The confession attempt resumed. She coached me through the words, but my responses were increasingly incoherent. Frustration flashed across her face. Her perfect plan required my cooperation, but my body was failing faster than she'd anticipated. She decided on a new approach. Grabbing a notepad from the drawer, she wrote out the confession herself. All I had to do was copy it in my own handwriting. She thrust the pen at me, but my hands shook too badly to grip it properly. The pen clattered to the floor. My vision tunneled. Dark spots danced at the edges. Jade's switching from jealous sister to part-time doctor is quite the career change. Studying symptoms like she's preparing for medical school instead of just regular old blackmail. I blinked hard, trying to clear them, but they multiplied. Jade's face blurred into an indistinct shape. Her voice sounded distant, like she was speaking from another room. She slapped my face lightly, trying to restore focus. The contact felt strange, disconnected from my body. She was losing her window. If I passed out before confessing, her leverage disappeared. She'd have to give me the insulin or risk me dying, which would ruin everything. The next wave of nausea was violent. This time, my stomach found something to expel. The bile burned my throat. Jade jumped back, cursing. She grabbed paper towels, throwing them at me in disgust. The smell made the nausea worse. She announced a new plan. If I couldn't speak or write, she'd accept a video of me nodding along as she told the story. Simple yes movements to her questions. She repositioned the phone and started recording again, but even nodding was becoming difficult. My neck muscles felt weak, unable to support my head properly. It lolled to one side. Jade grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at the camera. Her touch felt hot against my clammy skin. The questions began. Did I help her fake diabetes? A weak nod. Did I teach her the symptoms? Another nod. But my movements were so small, so uncertain, that even Jade could see they wouldn't convince anyone. She needed me more coherent. She made a decision. Opening one vial, she drew up a tiny amount of insulin in a syringe. Not enough to save me, just enough to stabilize me temporarily. She'd give me small doses, keeping me functional but dependent. Control through chemistry. The needle approached my arm. I tried to pull away but lacked the strength. Then a sound made us both freeze. A car door slammed outside. Jade rushed to the window, peering through the blinds. Our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Beaufort, was getting her morning paper. Jade watched until Mrs. Beaufort went back inside. The interruption had rattled her. She hadn't considered that others might notice something wrong. The neighborhood was usually quiet, but people were home for the holiday weekend. She returned to find me slumped further down the cabinets. My breathing was more labored, each inhale a conscious effort. The insulin in her hand represented salvation, but she hesitated. Once she gave me any, she'd lose some control. Instead, she tried another tactic. She reminded me of all the times I'd gotten attention for my diabetes. Every hospital visit, every concerned teacher, every special accommodation. She listed them like crimes, building her case for why she deserved to fake the same condition. Her words faded in and out of my consciousness. I caught fragments about fairness, about being seen, about years of invisibility. But understanding required energy I didn't have. My body was conserving resources for basic survival. The doorbell rang. We both startled. Jade's eyes went wide with panic. She hadn't expected anyone. Through the kitchen window, I could see a delivery truck. The driver stood at our front door with a package